Gary Johnson, and I am really excited about our next guest. He is the CEO. He is the man, Mr. PR of Double Exposure. Angelo Ellerbee, welcome to the show. Let's talk. How are you doing?
I'm blessed, man. I'm very, very blessed. And Gary, as I said to you before we hit the tape, man, you have been a supporter of mine for so many years. And I just want to applaud your efforts for what you do for the Black artists and how your systems have taken Black artists, particularly those who are unsung, and given a spotlight to it. So I applaud you, man. I applaud you for staying in the race. I applaud you for loving people that look like you and I and giving them platforms to speak loudly, not just speak, but to sing loudly as well. So I thank you very much, man.
Thank you very much. It's interesting that you say that because we just changed the banner on the website, and one of the writers told me, Mike Ramey, he said, you need to change that banner and let people know that we've been in this fight. Black men in America, you've been in this fight since 2001. And so we changed the banner and we said, you know, changing lives one article at a time since 2001. So yeah,
incredible.
Thank you very much. That means a lot. Let's talk about some of the artists that you worked with. I mean, this is a lot of people don't like to toot their own horn, but you're in PR. You get paid to toot your own horn and everybody else's. Who are some of the artists? Because there are a lot of people watching this who do not know who you are. I've been saying for years you're deserving a wider recognition. Who are some of the people that you have worked with?
Well, you know, Gary, the firm is now celebrating 53 years in doing business as Double Exposure Public Relations. And I started off representing club artists, you know, like your Sybil's and your Jocelyn Browns, your Joe Mandas, your Blaze. And these were all young people living in the city of Newark, which I call the greatest city in the world, is where I was born and raised. And so I got very, very close to the club scene. And I loved these young, energetic children that knew that they had talent, but no one was looking at their talents globally. You know, you would get it in all of the clubs, you would get it in London and some of the overseas places, but it was almost back in the 50s where Black music was only being listened to on, they called it beach music. It's almost like that. It's an underground kind of thing. But I grew up with an understanding that there was a void and an absence in these young people getting their kind of attention. And so I'm happy to know that in the planting seeds of a group called Blaze, that was an underground group, got great recognition with Motown. They signed to Motown, they toured, they sold records, and then it was Sybil, My Love Is Guaranteed. And then she did over one of Dionne Warwick's records, two of Dionne Warwick records. One was Don't Make Me Over, and it received such good attention on it. These were all the young people that I grew by that would come to my mother's house in the basement. And then it was Jocelyn Brown. There's a nice story about me and Jocelyn. I had to be about 20 years old, and Jocelyn was a mother of one, her daughter, and then she was raising her two nieces and nephews. So we hooked up and she said, oh, I like what you do, and the whole other bit there, but Angela, I got shows, but I got to watch these kids. I said, oh, I have a problem in watching them, going over their homework with them. We would get into the car. She would hit a club, play two songs, perform two songs, get back in the car and go to the next club. I'm in there taking care of the kids. At the end of the night, she go like this: 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. That's yours. That's yours. So, man, I guess the great thing about my start and beginning that we all stayed so humble and we were all hustlers. We had to hustle to eat and hustle to stay alive in a business that was not recognizing us. And then I got the pleasures of working with, my background is in fashion. My degree is in designs. And so all of the artists—
Let me stop you for 1 second. Let's back up with Jocelyn Brown. Because I want people to know what she's famous for. Isn't she somebody else's guy?
She's somebody else's guy.
Yes, what I'm talking about. Yes.
At the time in September.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the Jocelyn Brown.
I don't want that to be lost on people.
No, man, she has and still has this incredible voice. incredible voice. And when she gets on the stage, she takes complete and total control of the stage. I love Jocelyn with every inch of my heart. I know now she's living in London. And from what I'm to understand, doing extremely, extremely well. And periodically she comes back to the States and she does shows. So I'm like, bravo, 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 Jocelyn, do what you do. So yeah. So is Jocelyn, Sybil, Jomanda, Blaze, Chanel. It was all of these. New Jersey had the club sound. We were the city with impactful sounds and talented artists. They just was not getting visibility. They wasn't getting what they rightfully deserved. And so I always would introduce myself as a publicist, but I really think that I was a caretaker. I was more of a caretaker. It was not about reading bios because I never read them because I knew they were full of lies. I don't like getting into my clients on a personal side. So having a conversation with them, talking to their mothers and fathers and their siblings gave me my bio. I can't pick up a bio and read it when I'm talking to 10 or 8 different journalists. So I have to know about you in order to sell you. So I don't read bios to this day. If I believe that there is something that needs to be fixed, I will fix it. But I want the bio to sound like a conversation, like you know who it is. And so from that, I used to do fashion shows in Newark a lot, 17 years. Like it would be everybody who was somebody that would come to my shows. We're talking about 2,000, 3,000 people that would come annually to my shows. So one year, a young lady came in the dressing room, knocked on the door, and everything was like very excited at that time. She came to the door. She says, "My name is Camille Mtume." I said, "Oh, hi, it's nice meeting you." I didn't know who she was. She says, "My husband is James Mtume." So I looked over to somebody and said, and they said to me, "Angelo, he has the biggest record out now, Juicy Fruit." I said, "Oh yeah, how are you doing? A pleasure meeting you." And she and I became brothers and sisters. And she asked me if I would do Style, Mtume's album cover, You, Me, and He. And I said, "Oh, absolutely." So we got together. She was a designer. My job was to embellish what she had done with shoes and earrings and costume. All of that stuff was what I did. So I did it. And then Mtume came to me and he says, "Listen, man, if you can do all this for Camille, why don't you come and work for me?" I said, "Man, I don't know nothing about no music." He said, "Maybe it's time for you to know something about music." So I came up to his house. In his house, there was a room, and it was called the Yellow Room. This was the room that you go to get spanked. And while you got spanked, you also got an education. Mtume asked me to be his manager. I knew nothing about the music industry. Fashion was me. He would send me over to Epic and to Sony to these meetings with all these people that did not look like me. So they were very intimidating, right? And I felt like the dumbest of the dumbest going inside of there because all I was doing was listening. But the key thing in this brilliant man called James Mtume is that you had to go back in that yellow room and tell him every single thing that took place. And he would advise me accordingly, what to say, how to say it, diction, speech, looking you dead in your eye, saying what I needed. This went on for like maybe 9 months to a year. And then finally, because they first initially called him Mtume and said, "Are you sure this is your manager?" So after that 9, maybe 12-month period of time, they called him and they said, "Yo, he's loose, he's crazy." Now I've got the influence of James Mtume, and if anyone known Mtume or know of Mtume, this man was brilliant. And I tell you, he was a phenomenal individual. He was like a father to me because he taught me and he educated me and he loved me. And we shared everything from cars to clothes. That's the kind of relationship that I got. And that's why relationships and talking to clients is so very important to me. You're not just a publicist. You're not just a publicist. And if that's all that you're doing, something's wrong. You have to get the opportunity and take the opportunity to know your client. And that's developing relationship. I take all of the press stuff and put it to the right of me. And now I have to get in center front of this client and become their friend, their babysitter, their nanny. All of these things become very important for me to know and how to interact with them. And as time went on, I became M2May's manager. Then he had a company called Ifland. I became the president of Ifland. I oversee, supervised, and or managed all of his production, from Tyrone Brunson to Wapa's album, to the New Romance Crew. And then I got the opportunity to do my first motion picture. It was The Native Son. It was the first motion picture that M2May got. It was also the first starring role for Oprah Winfrey. I had the pleasures of meeting James Baldwin and starting to connect with all the people that I needed to connect with. But in the interim of all of that, M2May says, now you have to be my publicist. And I'm looking at him like, you speaking Spanish? What the hell are you talking about? I don't know what the hell. So he said to me, young man, you're gonna, here's $100. Go out to the store and buy 100 newspapers. Look in the lifestyle section, music, and get to know those people. So, I'm challenged. And so I start calling people. I called the New York Times blind and stupid, did not know. The lady was so nasty. She was just nasty, just blatantly nasty, and she kept coughing. So I figured she really didn't want to be bothered, but I got her first and last name. And so when I hung up with her, I said, I'm going to the drugstore. I went to the drugstore and I bought 40 things of cough drops, different flavors, the whole other bit. I went to the gift store and I got a box and I overnighted it to her. The next morning, she called me up and she said, you didn't have to do this. And I said, oh, but I did. I felt that you were getting sick and I wanted you not to be sick. She said, young man, is there anything that I can do to help you? Sure, there's something that you can do to help me. And I got a 4-page spread on M2May for the movie that he was scoring, The Native Son. So it's about thinking outside of the box. It's about not just doing the notebook. It's thinking outside of the box. It's coming up with creative ideas that is going to personally touch someone. Because you have to look at these journalists they pay my rent. They pay my mortgage.
This is beyond an interview. This is a masterclass that you're giving on the value of relationships. It's not good enough to build a relationship, which is important, but you have to be able to maintain that relationship.
Exactly.
And I'm looking at you and listening to you, and I'm like, this is why this guy's so good at artist development, because you get to know the person.
Absolutely. And very, very much, Gary, what happens is, here's a prime example. I worked with Mary J. Blige in the beginning.
One of my favorites.
At the beginning of her career, and it was rough. See, I bring up the greatest city in the world to me, Newark, because it's an urban, tough city. They call it Brick City. So I came from that kind of environment. My sisters were gangster. I have 4 sisters and they were gangster as all hell. They would fight you quicker than they would kiss you. And they were very protective of their baby brother. So there was nothing and nobody that can come to me and fear me. I was never afraid of them. Mary came to my office, and this is when we were on 7th Avenue. And so the elevator into my office. So yesterday before the interview, I said, I want a Carnegie Deli sandwich. It was just a craving. She was an hour late. So she got off the elevator with a serious attitude. She said, where's Angelo? I said, Angelo? Are you talking about Mr. Ellerbee? She said, whatever. I said, yeah, whoever. And you, I gather, are married, right? Well, I am Angelo Ellerbee. You're an hour late. I'm going to lunch. We can revisit this tomorrow.
Boom.
And the next day, she was 2 hours early.
All right. You teach people how to treat you.
Oh, absolutely, my man. You know, one thing you're going to do, I'm never going to win a popularity contest. But what you're going to do is you're going to respect me. My time is valuable. And so I want you to treat me like you would treat anyone else that you're paying for services. So the next day she came in and we kicked it off really well. Then she asked me about listening to her album. She said, so why is it that you listen to, how you gonna help somebody you don't listen to nobody's music? I said, because I'm not selling music. You don't see no albums on my wall. I sell talent. That's what I sell. I don't sell music. I ain't never sold music and still don't sell music. I sell talent. And I believe you got some. So let's just sit back, relax, and let's just take this on a nice old ride. Well, when I'm in sessions, I'm never to be disturbed. But when your mother calls, you're going to get disturbed. So my mother called. They said, Mr. Ellerbee, I know that you're not to be disturbed, but it's your mother. So I pick up the phone for my mother, and my mother tells me about my nephew. I raised my three nephews. We all raised my three nephews. I can't just take it on myself. And so this one, his name was Kenyana. He was shot 9 times in the back until he died. And in that, I'm in session with Mary, and I just went right back to work. There was nothing that I could do at that stage of the game. I made a commitment to Mary, commitment to the record company, and I was going to live it out. And so she said, well, do me a favor. Would you listen to my new album? And it was, if you could look in the mirror and see what I see. Oh my God. And a tear fell down and another tear fell down. And she's looking at me and she's going, what's wrong with you? And then she started crying. And I said, so what's wrong with you? And then she started to tell me about her father and not being with her mother, and she missed her father. And I told her about what happened with my nephew and the whole other bit. She said, well, go ahead and go. You need to go with your family. I said, no. Right now, my family is you, and I got to take care of you. You're living, and I'm going to be with my family. Trust me. And so that relationship started. But I made sure that there was a comfortability in this relationship, because you got to remember, she would break a bottle off and put it in your face. That's how tough she was. She was absolutely no nonsense.
I saw the Netflix documentary on her, and I got this. It made it quite clear she was rough in the beginning.
Oh, very, very rough. And you know what I do, Gary, is not a cup of instant coffee. What I do is brewed coffee. And what I mean by that, you have to plant the seed and let it grow. You have to take the granules and you have to ground the granules. So it's a process. So it's not going to hit right then, but it's going to hit when the process is developed and you add the water and you add all the ingredients to it. So in its time, Mary started to develop, because I would take all of her old videos and interviews where she was sitting in the chair with her legs wide open and all the silly things. And she was like, Angelo, do me a favor, please don't make me watch these things. I said, no, you're going to watch them because it's you. And so you grow by that, because they're seeing all of their wrong actions and how you sit in the chair and how you look at people. But more than that, I remember someone calling me from uptown saying, she said, you're teaching her about books and reading. I ain't paying you to do that. I said, I'm Santa Claus. It's a gift. Let me do it. Because I'm of the mindset, particularly with people who look like me, I want to know all of the fallacies of your career. I want to know the strengths, the fallacies. How do I best help you? So I give everybody a reading thing, and we have to read out loud, and I tape them all. And if this is not then if this is not happening the way that I think that they should be fluent in their reading, there's a problem. And I would say, if there's a problem, if you can't read this, how did you read your contract?
Wow.
If
I
you have,
mean, wow.
think about it, buddy. And a lot of them were just like that, man.
This is artist development. This is like the charm school, the etiquette school,
It's
like what they used to do in the early days of Motown. I can't remember her name, but
But
yeah.
Barry Gordy was no fool. When you live in Rome, you do what the Romans do, right?
Yeah.
Our music was not being received globally. So you're in America, you must do what Americans do. Black people was a threat, however they may come in that day and time of the 50s and 60s. How can I prove to you that my talent is as acceptable and should be such acceptable in this society? So what did he do? He went and developed a program that taught them manners and diction and how to dress and how to walk and how to talk. I did no more than take the formulas and recreate, but I also added on things that I wanted my Black talent to know. I wanted to know about recoupables. Listen, you think you taking 30 people with you on the road? You think somebody giving you this money? Ain't nobody giving you nothing. It's called recoupables. You don't know about your publishing. You don't know about your splits, your shares. You need to know about your business. How did you hire a manager and you did not know what the responsibilities of a manager was? How did you hire an accountant if you don't know what accounting is? So these were things that people would say, I didn't ask you to do that. I just wanted you to do interview techniques. And I always said to them, I'm Santa Claus. Because a lot of the record company executives wanted very much to keep my talent dumb. And so that they would be in control.
Yep.
And so you go years later, it's called independent record labels. So they're not as dumb as you thought they were. Now they have their own. And I would just hope that them having their own, they would structure their programs within their labels with the importance of artist development. Make them look good. As consumers, we buy on an impulse.
Oof. Emotional.
We go into the store to get this, but we saw that. So image is important. The stylization of your artist is important. And I would always say to the artists, after we do these fabulous shots, you can't look like Mama Gorilla after that. You got to, when you go out in the street, you got to
maintain.
You got to maintain it. And so it is always like, it was like, Angelo, I'm just running to the store. I said, but when you run to the store and you don't got all this visibility, somebody's waiting to see you without makeup, to see you with your tracks not in, or see you with no weave on. Or you got to remember what you've created. And you have to be responsible for what comes up out of your mouth.
Wow.
Because
So
what comes up out of your mouth is going to live forever. It's going to outlive you. And that you are not understanding that you're going to have children and they're going to have children. And that legacy of what you created, calling people bitches and all that, guess what?
Preach.
Preach. You got to be careful of how you want to be portrayed, how you want your legacy. There's a gentleman that I think is a phenomenal artist. His name is Chris Brown. I think he is so phenomenal. I think he was our next Michael Jackson. But it's all about what you put around you to keep you solid, and people who have the smarts to engineer your career. Why is he doing that when he should be doing this? And we all get a chance to make mistakes. Don't tell me about that, because he's corrected it. Why can't we but you gotta have people around you that can see a bigger picture for you, not people around you that is doing what you just want them to do.
Yeah.
You got to know about your business is what I'm saying.
You know what? I had a couple of questions, but you know what? Oh no, they're done. We're gonna step back. Hey, let me ask you this. What was
Yes, sir.
your earliest or most vivid recollection of being or feeling different?
Um, at a very early age, I knew me. And as I got older, at a very early age, 8 or 9 years old, when I got to be 14, 15 years old, I knew who I was. And I had a sister that I loved so much. My older sister, Rose, would always come to me and say, I don't care how you're living your life. I don't care what you're doing. You must make people respect you. Because if you're not respecting you, they're not going to respect you. So I got into a thing about self-love. I tell people today that I'm romantically in love with Angelo Ellerbee. I love me some me. And loving me, I can love you a bit better. And I can tell you how to love me. I can tell you how to treat me. So I think that there's nothing special about me. It's that I have now started to pour into myself the way I have poured into so many people. You know, the thing for me, Gary, is that people have not really followed my career because there's been like 6 genres of music that I've dealt with. When they tell me that I can't do things that are white, that's what I'm going to do. And I can't do things that are actors or I can't do product placement. Those are all the things that I go and I set out to do. I remember in its time, there was an opera star by the name of Beverly Sills. And it was like, how the hell did you? Then it was Laura Branigan. How the hell? Gloria, you took up. Yeah. And these were people that were in my life. But then, then I got into gospel music. I was a senior vice president at Island Black Music while I was running Double Exposure. And Hiram Hicks, who was the president or a senior vice president of Black Music, started this division, and he started with all newcomers outside of one. The newcomer in my time was Drew Hill.
Oh, yeah.
And he said to me, yo, man, I want you to do A, B, C, and D. I don't want you to start yet, but I'm gonna let you listen to the music. And here's like a little background on the group. All right, Hiram. In my office, we had a staff of 10 in the PR room. I went inside of there on the publicity media and said, this is Drew Hill. Listen to the music. We would all sit back and listen to the music. This is a little bit of their bio. We had hip hop, we had TV, we had radio, we had video, we had everybody had their assignments and their areas of expertise. So you got to understand, I'm full of my new hustle. I was not letting this new account, and it wasn't really new yet because it wasn't mine. So my job was to get 30 interviews and give it back to Hiram. We came back with 35, and he looked at me, he said, is this shit real? He said, how could you do something like this? I said, do something like what? This is what you asked me to do. He said, Angelo, do you have it? So I was introduced to the guys, got on the phone, they did their interviews. He said, all right, I want to do a release party for them. The second single is going to be In My Bed. Come up with something for me. So I said to him, and we did this, we executed this extremely well. We did, everybody that was invited to the party had to come in pajamas. Okay. My hostesses were my employees. The guys were the bottom and the girls were the top. And if you wanted to do an interview with Drew Hill, we brought in a bed. We did it just like a living room. Boom, 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 boom. You want to do the interview, you got to get in the bed with Drew Hill. And that happened. And when he came in there, he was like, what the? and then all of a sudden he says, well, I'm starting out on some gospel stuff, man. What's your background on da-da-da-da-da? So I'm Black. I went to a Black church. Got it. And so it was Karen Clark Sheard. It was her first album so I fell in love with Karen just on that one record that her and her sister did. Uh,
Clark sisters.
yeah, you got the sunshine in 'em. And we went down and we did the first. So every opportunity was not an opportunity. I don't believe in someone handing you something. If they talk about it, I'm just going to sit up and I'm going to claim it. Because the Bible said you got to claim your victory. And so I had 19 people I had to pay. So whatever came my way, I was going to go and boom, 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 and knock it out the box. And then it was Mr. Biggs and was a bunch of other projects he would give to me. And it was gratifying to see what I developed from my mother's basement into 7th Avenue and to worldly people. So I was very, and still to this day, man, it ain't just me, it's the people around me, the people who are with me that makes my life a little bit easier and makes the business worthwhile for myself.
All right. How about a fill in the blank? Here we go. If it were not for blank, this would be 2 parts. If it were not for blank, I would not be as successful in my business. Part 2, if it were not for blank, I would not be as successful in my personal life.
First part, if it was not for God, I would not be successful. If it was not for the kind of energies that I got from my family, I would have gave up many times, many, many years ago. Clearly for me, if it wasn't for James and Tume, who shined another light in my life and showed and gave me another direction, I would be sitting at the sewing machine and the sketch pad trying to make a living. I'm very appreciative to every opportunity that I've had. And so if it was not for the people around me, and I center around me positive thinking people, people who are going to encourage my growth, people who believe in me and that I believed in them to have them in my life. It's very, very important that you find happiness with people who are around you. I really believe that, what do you call it? The demons come in disguises. And you have to be very, very careful who you bring in your life, because they come in as your friend and they go out as your enemy. So I take it very seriously when I call someone my friend, because if you take the word friend and split it in the middle, you're going to get the end of a friend, E-N-D. And so I'm very, very careful. For my love situation, I married myself at 14 years old. I knew that I was never going to have a partner of any sort in my life because I was that complicated. I was full of energy and charge. I wanted to make a difference in my life and in my community and for my family. People don't understand what it takes to be Black and gay and call yourself, and then have people to call you and that you don't get. I didn't get a lot of clients because of my sexuality. I had to fight for it. Still to this day, nobody gets into it. I used to tell all the rappers, and I've dealt with every rap I think underneath the sun, from Big Daddy Kane to Corrupt, DMX. It goes on down the list. Yo, dog, I used to say to them, and I spoke in their tongue. Yo, dog, I know you know about me, but let's don't get this mixed up. My money is my money. My work is my work. And don't nothing come in between that. So you have no worries here. So can we move on? And I remember Kane saying to me, and Eric B said to me, why are you telling me that? Because I know in your path of coming up here, somebody stopped you and said, where you going? And then they would say, oh, you going to that? And so you can't hear what nobody said until I tell you. So I'm telling you, this is what time it is. And you absolutely have no worries.
Well, that's mad respect, because you got a long line of rappers.
Yep, I do.
In your stable.
Yes.
A long line. And is there anybody in any genre of music that you would like to work with or never had a chance to work with?
I like working with young, energetic, responsible people who don't have success, that I can shape and mold, that I can create and that I can help, that I can oversee, supervise, and or manage their plight in life. When you come to me, I'm not going to be your secretary. When you come to me as a full established artist, I don't do good being a secretary, and I'm not good at being nobody's assistant. So if we're going to come and work together, let's come and work together, mold and shape and make mistakes and correct mistakes and do all the things we need to do so that you can grow to be great, greater, and then the greatest. So there's no one particular individual. I'm not starstruck. What I like is a deposit slip.
A consistent deposit slip.
Yes, exactly. That's what I like.
Oh my goodness, this is a masterclass. This is a masterclass, and that's how I'm going to market this. This ain't no damn interview. It's a masterclass. And to that point, what for people, young people, or anybody, because sometimes I know older people who get the trappings of money and they just go berserk because they never had it, and so they make the same mistakes. Business-wise, what should people know? What should they do?
They should know in and everything that they can possibly learn before saying, I'm an artist. Take the time out to understand and evaluate before you bring someone into your life. If you're my manager, I want to ask you as many stupid questions as I possibly can before you become my manager. First, it's a courtship, then it's an engagement, and then it's a marriage. I am not signing nothing that's going to make you my instant manager, which makes you my instant never go away. I want to find out, we must critique your responsibilities. You should not do everything. You should focus in the beginning to the beginning. I want to find out, do you do drugs? How many days in the week do you go out? All of these things sound stupid, but if you go out 7 days a week, you ain't got no time for me. I need to have you clear mind, clear head, and astute enough to prepare me for what you're doing. Let's exercise a plan together. What is it? What do we want to do and how we want to go about doing this? What do I have to do as a responsible artist? What must I do? How much? Because that's what a courtship is. Anyone that has sex on the first date, that's just sex. You ain't going with me. We ain't engaged. Your face ain't going up on my social media the first date. You put that up after 7 months, 8 months of developing and getting to know each other, right?
Yeah.
I don't want you to think about engagement the first year. They don't even know each other. Go out and do something for me to make me want you to get closer to me. If you're doing just rudimentary things that I know that I could do myself, then we ain't serving a purpose. So if we think before you make the moves and making sure that you're comfortable before you say sign on the dotted line. And if you can't read or comprehend, tell that lawyer to break it down to a third grade level so that you can comprehend what you're signing and what you're committing yourself to do for the next 5 years. That's one of the things.
That's really important. It reminds me of something my grandfather told me. He only had a 2nd grade education, but he said, you know what, boy? He said, you can be the smartest person in the room when you know where all the smart people are.
Yeah.
He said, that makes you the smartest person in the room, and just use them. Ask for help and use them.
Exactly. I think that before you make a cake, you have to make sure you have all the ingredients. If you don't have your flour and your butter and your sugar and you don't have no grease to go in, you don't have all the ingredients, the cake is never going to rise. So before you go to prepare this cake, you need to make sure you got all the ingredients. And you want to find out what's in the ingredients.
You know, what's the best part of being Angelo Ellerbee?
Loving the Lord. I want to say to you, no, I'm nobody's born again Christian man, but I've been in this business so long. And there hasn't always been a bed of roses. It's been tough and sometimes very hurtful. And sometimes you didn't know how you were going to pay your bills and how you were going to survive. But you have to create that illusion, because if you don't create the illusion, you'll lose everything. You have to make people believe in you, even though you're going through those difficult and rough times. And I would see so many people be destroyed over not creating that illusion. And I was smart enough to know that this hand should not know what this hand is doing. And I learned the importance of privacy. You can't tell everybody everything.
Thank you.
You have to, it's just like being married. You can't tell when before the marriage, if I'm worth $1 million, I'm going to tell you I don't have $1 million. I got $500,000. So I take the other $500,000 and I hide it just in case the marriage don't work. I got something, right? I know it's not so honest, but it's real for me.
Right.
It's you know what, man, it is like really just taking some faith and belief in you and understanding who you're putting in your life.
This is a masterclass. Fake it till you make it. I'm just going to break it down.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
You know, a lot of people don't know that you've also written 3 books, bestsellers.
Yes.
Talk about those books.
Well, the first book that I wrote was for Judith Reagan Books, and it was called "What's
These are major publisher Reagan Books.
Yeah. It was called "What's Your Excuse?" And I took the premise of the book because there were so many young people that were coming to me where their mother and their fathers had not taught them the things that I was teaching them, and that they didn't know anything about grace and conduct. And so I took all of those artists and things that was coming my way and I put it inside of the book. And then I learned the importance of self-publishing. Sure, they give you a bonus, you know, they give you the 65,000, whatever they gave me, but they own you.
Yep.
And you know what? The only one that can own me is the man upstairs and my mother and my father. I don't like ownership. That's why I've never had a partner. People say, well, how come you don't have a partner? Because I like owning things. What's mine is mine. What's yours is yours. If you put nothing in, you should get nothing out. And I don't like sharing things. So then I said, I'm going to self-publish a book. And I wrote this book called Ask Angelo. Dionne Warwick has, Whitney Houston has, DMX has, and Mary J. Blige has. And so what the book was really all about was a self-help book. I know everybody thought I was going to gossip, but I'm a professional. I ain't gossiping about nothing because you take a confidential step with your clients. And I'm not putting nobody's business out there because guess what? As blessed as I am, I got some dirt too. So I don't want my dirt. No. So this book was about giving examples of what I did with Mary. You know, the reading techniques, the table manners, the interview techniques, step by step. So anyone that was interested in wanting to know about what it is that I did and how to make a well-rounded artist, that's what this book was about. And my third book was The Scent of Success. And so I have serious concerns with people who are less fortunate than I. I come from Newark. I have 4 sisters and a brother. 2 of them are addicts. My family has had that. And people do things and they go to jail and they do this and they do that. I just believe and I just know how America is so criminalized because I think America is just gangster. America is the biggest gangster out here. And so when you come out of jail, you really don't have a life because they're not going to give you a job. My book was about loving yourself, the things that you needed to do to prepare yourself for that interview, for that new job, how to dress, how to talk, how to read, all of those things that I was teaching all of my, and particularly for that older artist who just gave up on wanting to sing, talented as all hell, but got ripped off never made any money. And then they just threw the towel up and said, that book was about encouraging them, giving them the foresight and the energy and the drive to say, let's shake this stuff off and let's just do it all over again. Let's just see what's going to happen. Life is a gift. When you unwrap this gift that God has given to you, you should go for it. This should be there. The only thing you should fear is the word of God. Everything else don't even count. Go do it. People are dying too fast. Live your life and be original in living your life. We don't need another Beyonce. I love Beyonce, but she's an original. Mary is an original. Be you. Be yourself. Create from your standpoint. Don't emulate. Don't copy. Be a real original artist and sing the type of music. And you may get 15 no's. But after that 15 no, there's the 16th yes.
If you got the feedback along the way, you should be getting stronger from every failure.
Absolutely. And that's what it is.
Goodness.
Life is nothing but experience. How you go to apply from those experiences? Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. And it took 1 million people to put them back together. I say, if you fall, ask yourself why you fell. Ask yourself, how you gonna get your ass off this floor? And then when you get off of the floor and you're standing again, now you know I fell down here. I don't want to go back down here. I'm standing tall now. I'm gonna make sure that it's right and it's correct. Don't become accusatory about who did what to you. The manager stole my money. You did it to yourself because you didn't study, you didn't educate yourself.
That is so important to remind me of something, and I'm probably paraphrasing. Muhammad Ali said, the failure is not in the fall, it's not getting up. And so that's what you're talking about. This is a master class. This is a master class. And I want people to watch this interview and then play it back, because there are all kinds of things that are applicable and transferable. What you talked about in business, the beauty of it is it also has application in one's personal life. All they have to do is listen.
Yeah.
Wow.
A great man told me that once in two man. Listen, Angelo. Just listen.
You know what? On that note, give us some final thoughts before we wrap up. You have the final word. Just this. I keep telling. This is a master class. You go ahead, Professor.
I think what we're talking about here for any individual, not just a recording artist, I think it's just for life. And I'm nobody's born again Christian. I'm not a minister. I'm not a deacon. I'm none of that. I just want to give the advice that I give myself, and that's prayer, faith, determination, strength, and good energies. Keep your eyes on the prize, never give up. I don't care if you get 65 years old and you just started and you wanted to start a new career, do it, and you can. If you want to go to school at 50 years old, do it, because you can. You can always achieve. You can always learn from someone else. It's all you. Don't become accusatory to why you did not do what your heart, mind, body, and soul wanted to do. Faith will unlock every door. You got to walk through it.
Angelo Ellerbee, let me tell you, man, this has been a pleasure. This has been a pleasure. I cannot thank you enough. This is going to be a print feature on blackmeninamerica.com and also on Calculations. We're just going to blow this up. I will stay in touch. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being on the show.
Oh, Gary, it's my pleasure seeing you. God bless you, man.